Welcome to the Off Tackle with John Fina show on the Overreaction Sports Network. Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome everybody into the Off Tackle with John Fina show on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe. It is so good to have every single one of you joining us. My name is Joe Miller. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired. And that giant hunk of a good-looking man is former offensive tackle for the Buffalo Bills, John Fina himself. And you can find him on Twitter at John Fina. It's so good to have every single one of you guys with us. Please do us a favor. Please like, please subscribe, whatever platform you are consuming this vidcast on. Please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification, hit all the buttons. Whatever button is in front of you, hit them all. And if you were listening to this in podcast form, you can do the same. You can still hit subscribe and like, and you can leave us a review and all that good stuff. And also tell a friend. But it is so good to have every single one of you guys joining us. One little piece of housekeeping. You can find us on every social media network just by searching Overreaction Buff. We have a website, overreactionbuffalo.com, that's got some really cool features for you, the Mafia. But the Buffalo Bills are 11-3, John Fina. They are still, it's funny they haven't taken it away from them. They're still the AFC East champions at this point. They're chasing down the Chiefs, who just won't lose a freaking football game. And they went into Detroit last night and annihilated. I'm going to use the word annihilated, the Detroit Lions, by putting 41 offensive points on the scoreboard. John, how are you 24 hours later?
Oh, man, it was a wild ride. I got to tell you, I switched to gin and tonic for this game because I wanted to I needed the quinine, make sure, and the lime so I wouldn't get scurvy, so I could keep the mosquitoes away. I mean, I had all my bases covered. I was ready. And nice. I think by the third quarter, maybe I better slow down on the GMPs here. I don't think scurvy's coming for me. But I get a little lathered up. And, one of the great things about this game, Joe, was going back and watching. Because as I was watching it, I saw so many. It was eye candy everywhere for anyone who's a little wonky about running schemes. And yeah, you talk about Kansas City Chiefs, who's going to beat them. I don't know. They survived the rest of the season without a loss. They've been getting pretty lucky. But I also feel like we made our bed, right? I mean, we laid an egg against the Ravens. We went down to Houston, and that was just a disaster. We made our own bed, but it looks like we're just remaking that bed every day and saying, you know what? We are where we are. All we can do is improve our approach. And obviously, I'm speaking more offensively. We talked about the defense last night. It became the game it became because they had to throw. We were down a lot of players on defense, just as Detroit was. So in a shootout, we ended up shooting more rounds than they did.
Yeah, you're not wrong. 2 seconds. Sorry about that. I had to clear my throat there real quick. You were tuned in for at least part of the aftermath this afternoon, this morning with me. And I think the biggest, as much as there was stuff in that show, the biggest takeaway for me was effectively, after having rested on the game for more than 12 hours, was really how comfortable Josh Allen has become in this offense. We talked about it on a post-game show. I don't even remember. It was around week 3 to week 4 to week 5 to week 6, somewhere where I used the analogy or was it a metaphor analogy, whatever, that, it just seemed like, as much as the blankets were on Josh Allen, he was like trying to kick his legs free at the bottom, like in a hotel, because they like tuck the covers. He's just trying to get comfortable, trying to figure out how he fits. And it's amazing how well it seems like he is just glided into and fits in this offense now, the comfortability that he has with it. Nothing feels pressed over the last several weeks. I don't know what you would attribute. Is it just something that quarterbacks have to go through with a new offensive? Because it seems like some teams swap offensive coordinators often, and there isn't normally like as much of a, I don't want to say lead time. There isn't as much of a curve, right? And it just seems like Josh has really found his stride in this offense.
A couple things come to mind when you say that, and I love that analogy of the sheets tucked in at the hotel, and you got to kick them out. Josh is a young kid. He's a likable guy, big personality.
Mhm.
He's a lot of fun, and he doesn't want to feel confined. The difference, to your point, an offensive coordinator will come in and it's my way. This is what we're doing.
Right.
This is how we're doing it. I am getting the feeling after your comments and watching the creativity that made its way to the field last night that there is a real open line of communication between Joe Brady, Josh Allen, and whomever else is a part of that. We're seeing things that typically we see done to us, and we're
Mm,
just like,
mm.
we're doing those things now. And there are things that are being borrowed from the college game that are being borrowed from around the league. And Jerry will tell you, everybody will say this is a copycat league,
Mhm.
right? But it's all about what can you install on short notice? We're late in the season. How many reps? How can we rep this? What's the defensive personnel? Which modification, which wrinkle is going to work against these guys, their personalities? And it is really kind of cool because as you watched the game last night at the same time I did, how many times did you catch the guys on offense smiling back and forth to with a
Yeah.
big grin, like they were in on some really cool secret Christmas present that somebody was going to get, and they're just kind of bouncing around, ready for it to come out.
Right.
They're having it's the creativity outlet and the fact that everybody is playing a big part in this offense.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know from doing this show in particular, the Off Tackle with John Fina show with you since I think 2019 or 2020, I think is when we started. There's something to be said for teams putting stuff on tape, even if it's one play, you put it on tape, and then other teams that you're going to play down the road have to look at it. The Buffalo Bills didn't have a true practice last week coming into this game. Meanwhile, I feel like we saw more changes and more not diversions from who they were, but they put more creative stuff on film against the Lions, a very, very good football team, than we have seen them put on film in a long time. Whether it was the Khalil Shakir little flip pass, which was like a Kansas City Chiefs play. They normally run that to Travis Kelce. The wheel route to Ty Johnson that went around, like he went in motion, then backed around the two wide receivers. The very first pass to him where he just jetted out, took a line to his left and put the linebacker on him. There was a lot that the Bills put on film in this game that to me was a little bit surprising, including going on defense, going to a traditional 4-3, which I don't think they've done this year.
So I got one of the plays that you mentioned, and something is going on with my access to film right now that I can't get the first two drives of any game or either team. So I'm a little angry about that because there were plays early on where I was going to showcase some of that creativity, variety, if you will. But I think what you might be missing a little bit, and this is something that, why would you know this? They installed and ran a number of plays with a lot of diversion, as you mentioned, but they've been practicing these. They just don't, hey, on, Sunday night, why don't we do this? And they're digging in the dirt, moving the stick, you're the bottle cap. They practice these things over the course of several weeks. Occasionally you'll get a flare where they're going to put something in that, you can install very quickly. But a lot of what they did was really specific that required a number of reps, a lot of different reads, a lot of different alignments. And there's just some beautiful stuff in here. I can't wait to share it. I'm really kind of chomping at the bit. And I got 6 plays, Joe. 6.
Well, I don't want to keep you champing at the bit too long. So with that, why don't you jump into some of these plays and show us what you got? Break it down for us, Big John.
I'd love to. Thank you for the invitation.
You are welcome.
This one in particular, I'm a real big fan of. All right, this is let's just run it, give everybody a chance to see it and absorb it. Basically, we're lining up like we're going to run split zone. We've talked about split zone a lot, where the line goes one direction, but the tackle runs across the formation the other way. And now you see Deion Dawkins is pulling across. It looks like split zone. But the wrinkle here is that when you typically run split zone to your right or Josh's right. The guard will kick out the end on the right side of our screen or to Josh's left. But we didn't do that. So Edwards, rather than kicking out the end, he drives up to the linebacker. Well, why is this important? Because when the tackle vacates and runs across the formation, the defensive end flattens and he chases. So when he chases and the ball's given off laterally, Cook has an opening. It's really cool. I mean, I hate to just kind of like gush all over this, but you don't see a lot of people. You're basically leaving an unblocked man. If this defensive end takes 1.5 more steps upfield, he's going to pound James Cook in the backfield. But he chases action, and the action that he chases is Deion Dawkins. This is a risk. It's something that they said, we're going to just throw bait at you. We're going to bait you with a pulling tackle. We run split zone all the time, chase the tackle, and we're just going to kind of reverse it out with the running back.
Yeah, this was the play where Jim Nantz said untouched into the end zone. James Cook. Yeah, there was a lot of great running plays in this game, and this was absolutely one of them. And the fact that they did something opposite to what they normally did was impressive.
So I'll just freeze it. Typically on split zone, you're going to see Deion. Well, I got to get rid of that thing. Deion Dawkins will pull, right? David Edwards will kick out the end. As Deion comes across the formation, he kicks out that other end. So everybody's reading Deion. So you get a big migration to the left, and the last guy available is a defensive end, and they don't even block him. It's slick. It's really slick. All right, next play. I'm going to bring this up, and I'll run it for you. Just give you a chance to take a look at this one. This is the hair pull touchdown.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Now, what? I had a hard time keeping this under 9 seconds. So this, what I loved, well, otherwise my email won't transfer it. All right. What I loved about this play is no tight ends. We've emptied out the box. We've got 5 blockers, a running back, and a quarterback. They essentially have us outnumbered. Okay. They've got 6. We've got 5. You can do the math. You should really
they're 4 wide in this setup. They're spread, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But typically when you see this type of formation, you're thinking pass.
Right.
Okay. So again, we run split zone again. And all we do is just get a man and a man. We don't even block. We don't even block the other guy. I don't know why I'm getting this strange. There we go. Running the play. And the most important thing about this play is you've got big guys up front, and what they're doing is they're maintaining contact and just giving James Cook a chance to find a seam.
Yeah, we're having a little bit of trouble seeing the video. Your internet connection seems to be a little bit laggy. So the dudes on the screen are a little bit blurry, but conceptually speaking, I can see what you're talking about. Just in case that's what you're seeing as well on your end. So.
It might just be blurry because I cried while watching the beauty of this game.
It might be accurate.
Let's pull this one down and see if we have some better luck with this play here. All right. So this is power left. This traditional play. You're going to get the Osiris Torrance is going to pull to his left across the formation, and you're going to get a tray block between Deion Dawkins and the tight end. And more or less what we're trying to do is create pin and pull running lanes. All right. But what's really cool about this is you get the addition of Gilliam. So it's power / counter, where you're replacing the tackle and counter with the fullback. And we call it power counter, whatever you want to call it.
Back up to what you just said. You're replacing who?
So traditional counter is where you pull the guard and the tackle from the backside to the front side.
Okay.
there's a risk to that when you pull the tackle because that defensive end can close. So now what you do is you have Spencer Brown step in with his left, put his hand on the 3 technique, and then turn back out on the end. But the fullback takes the place of the tackle, right? I'll pause it right. There he is. He steps down. He looks out at the end. You've got Torrance pulling across to kick out the end. The tight end is blocking down with Deion Dawkins for the linebacker that's on the hash mark.
Right.
Okay. So you get a
that
kick
guy
from Torrance.
There it is. Yep.
Right. And then Gilliam is going to fit right up inside. But what's really nice about this is the vision. Instead of forcing it into where there's a lot of traffic, because the tight ends guy he worked with Dawkins, he rolled out. So the beauty of this is just the idea nowadays, the way running backs run, it's with a field of vision. Not all of them do a great job of it, but in the old days, we're saying we're going to hit the B hole, we're going to hit the B gap, we're going to hit the B gap. But the way football expands nowadays, if you can take the ball and just find a read and make it upfield. Now, it's not a great play. It's about 6 yards. But what it does, it puts Gilliam in the game. It shows a wrinkle like, holy crap, wait, there's a fullback? Like, we haven't seen Gilliam play outside of the fourth quarter since forever. So you're adding another look. You're changing the defensive interpretation to what they see by virtue of personnel and alignment. So it's just I threw this in here just to show you variety. And it's also power running schemes, right? It's not slick. It's not this kind of zone read where you get guys you kind of maintain. This is like dedicated power, downhill, face to face. We're going to punish you. Let's see if you can take it and fight back.
So back up to the beginning to the top, I have 2 specific questions. So here, formation wise, and you can stop it. You can just, So the Lions are in a 5-2. So are they actually in a 4-3 and one of their linebackers has a hand on the ground, or are they actually running a 5-2 right now?
No, chances are it's a 4-3. Depending on who this is outside the tight end. Now, we were hammering them in the run by this time, okay? But they're running this basically, we call this an under. A defensive alignment is an under, which means you got a nose tackle, you got a 3 technique, and you've got an end all to the side away from our tight end. So we call that an under. If you flip the 3 technique over onto Edwards, and you had an end, 3, and a nose on the tight end side, that's called an over. So we're running this into or against an under.
So who has pre-snap? Who has the advantage in this situation, the offense or the defense?
I would say this is the right call for this look. And I think what really hurts the Lions here is on the initial alignment. The defensive end on Deion Dawkins is really playing kind of a 4-eye, which means he's on his inside shoulder. We call it a 4-eye. I don't know why. The numbering system was made by somebody who was drunk, but that's fine. And when you really look at it, you could call this a quasi bear front. And a bear front, Chicago Bears ran it, right? You had a nose tackle, 2-3 technique. So forever since Chiefs and the Bears ran this defense, we call it a bear front. So sometimes the ends get a little bit wider, but it's still a bear front.
Gotcha. And then the other question that I had in regards to this formation was specifically to Reggie Gilliam. And it was funny because around halfway through the third quarter, like I'm a big movie quote guy, and the movie quote that came back to me was from Necessary Roughness when Rob Schneider was in the booth saying, "I don't think now's a good time for everybody to get a chance to play." As much as, to your point, Reggie hasn't played much this year outside of the fourth quarter. The Bills he played a lot on my second watch in this game. What was the reason for that they went very traditional fullback, if you will, in this game as much as they did?
I mean, for my dollar, I would say that number 43 Long, the linebacker for the Lions, is somewhat new. He's a little bit spry, but he doesn't play with a lot of power. I would also say Jack Campbell, obviously, is their stud in the middle. but I don't think they had deep concern for the defensive ends. So if you can keep the ends under control, you have the ability to power up through the inside and put somebody like Gilliam on a linebacker who, generally isn't going to see somebody like that coming at him full speed.
Right. You got to wonder what the complexity of this game looks like defensively for the Lions if Aiden Hutchinson is actually playing in this game, right?
Absolutely. There's no question about it. Another thing, and this is what I like about Joe Brady, we don't know when we're going to need Gilliam. We don't know which defensive line and linebacker group we're going to face due to injury or due to philosophy for that game plan. And you get this guy some reps. So he's had some practice reps. They got to get it in there. They want to make sure they get a good look at how they're going to use both power and ISO with Gilliam in the game.
Gotcha. What you got next? What's number 4? Good
number
stuff,
4.
by the way.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate that. I'm going to let it run as I do. I like this play. I'll tell you why, because we get another look at what appears to be a split zone, but it's more of a read by Spencer Brown. All right. So let's go back to the beginning and I'll freeze it. Right there. So it's split zone in a way that we haven't run it yet. And why are we doing this? Again, I talked about Aiden Hutchinson's not in the game. Deion Dawkins is going to be able to take this defensive end to the wood shop like he did all game long. Look at the split that Deion Dawkins has from his guard, right? Wilt Chamberlain could lie down between Deion Dawkins and David Edwards here. So he's already created this massive amount of space. Okay. Well, typically on split zone, Deion is going to track downhill toward Jack Campbell, and we're going to kick out that end. But rather, what they decided, because by virtue of film and Deion's ability, we're going to stretch them by alignment.
Right. We're
going to stick with Deion on the end, and we're going to let Spencer Brown, who's a pretty damn good athlete, read his way through this. And here's what really screwed Detroit on this. 53 long or 43 long is up on the tight end right now. So he's either going to go some sort of press man at the line of scrimmage, or he just wants to stop the running attack. Well, this is 2nd and 10. So there's a chance you could be trying to prevent the tight end from going out on a route. But what happens in effect is he more or less took himself out of the play. So between Osiris Torrance basically pinning his guy, and then the guard, Edwards and McGovern, they don't even have anybody to block back to. Like, they have nowhere to go. They can stay on this double team right here, which they do, and then they slide up. I'm having a really weird time. I get this window pane that opens up on my computer every time I press pause, and I'm not a big fan. All right, let me just bring it back right to here. So look at the natural gap, because Deion is such a wide split. He takes the defensive end. Spencer Brown is right behind the goalpost, and he can turn that up right there, or he could wrap around Edwards' block, which is what he chose to do. But look at there's 2 gaps
right
for the running back right now.
So it's dealer's choice. Go back to the original alignment. I have a question. I have another question. As much as it's blurry. So looking back at the gap between Deion Dawkins and Edwards, and I don't remember where, but it came, I think the Bills might have done a thing where talking about like an interview with Deion Dawkins on why he does that gap. As a former left tackle and one for 10 years with the Buffalo Bills and obviously a storied career that you had, at some point in time, you have to wonder if somebody's going to try to exploit that. Right? Because it's not normal in the NFL. If you were going to exploit it as a defense, what would you do to exploit that gap, that gigantic gap between Edwards and Dawkins? Because nobody else does this.
Well, it's kind of hard to say. Like, you won't see Deion with this type of split when he's got to have a combination block with Edwards, right? So you could call it a tip. I mean, it's 2nd and 10. So with this alignment, the defense looks at Dawkins and, they're thinking pass all the way, right?
Right.
I mean, by pre-snap, you could really put Dion in a bind if Jack Campbell walks up to the line of scrimmage and mugs up right there between Edwards and Dion. Another thing you could do is if the defensive end has the latitude to creep, he could creep down to the inside shoulder of Dion. He could press that inside gap, and then Campbell would be responsible for the C gap.
Right. It's interesting to me because there's tells like this. You use the word tell. There's tells like this that happen in the NFL or football often enough. And I'm reminded of, the guy that you played across from in practice for a long time, Bruce Smith, who was always trying to he had the fastest get off that I ever remember seeing from a defensive end, like generally speaking, but before the tackle was out of his set, Bruce was around him. And I always wondered about like the college clap, where the quarterback would clap, and then like there was like a pause, and then like the ball would be snapped. And the same thing is true of like the arm jet. And you saw the Lions last night try to jump one of those. Now they were way ahead of it. Who was it? Osiris Torrance did the arm jet, and then they jumped, and somehow we got called on a false start. But this is kind of another one of those things that I often wonder if somebody will take the opportunity to potentially take advantage of. I don't know that they will or won't, to your point, like just creeping up on the thing and put them in a bind. It's interesting to think about. So sorry. It's just how my mind works.
Yeah. All right. We're back. If you can hear me, are we back?
Yeah. I didn't realize I lost you. I was just talking the whole
time. I was down for a second. So first of all, I'm going to say that I hate the clap, right? Because you can get guys that jump off sides if you use a hard count. Yeah. Now, when you talk about like, this is a tell, it isn't anymore, because Dion has used this split enough times in both pass and run.
Gotcha.
Okay. So I'm not sure it's a tell for anything. And you still got to beat this guy. And he's
right.
I wish I had the first drive of the game. Jerry called me. He's like, "Did you see that?" And I said, "I did see that." We didn't even have to tell each other what it was. Dion Dawkins had the most ridiculous footwork on a pass set where I thought he was going to fall down, and he just his athleticism and recovery, it was beyond magnificent. I like, we were Jerry and I were laughing our heads off. I'm like, if I were ever to coach anybody, Jerry filled it in. He's like, I would never use Dion's tape. This is like the only guy I have ever seen just with the most ridiculous footwork do it, because he can, because he's absolutely alarmingly talented. It's incredible, the stuff that he does. And I laugh and I giggle and I'm in awe all at the same time.
A little bit like our quarterback, right, like number 17 behind the center, right?
Oh yeah, and that's my last play. You're just gonna love it. Okay, so all right, I got another split zone play. This is a beauty. This is split zone with freaking Khalil Shakir. Like, are you kidding me? Why on earth would you ask wide receiver to turn it upfield? They hate that stuff. So the risk on this play, and I'm going to run it, the risk on this play is they chicken out at the last second, they run to the sideline, get strung out, lose 3 yards. Not my man, Khalil Shakir. Now, look at Josh's action. It's a fake toss. This is crazy. And he actually tosses the ball, like with a yard between them. It's the riskiest damn thing I've ever seen. Like, nobody does this. The only thing that saves them is that it's a forward pass, right? But this play, soup to nuts, is just absolutely hilarious that we even ran this. David Edwards does a great job. He just gets skinny, gets through that gap, climbs Campbell. It's not a great block, but he bumps him. McGovern does an adequate job on his guy. Nothing fantastic. And all Spencer Brown has to do is come out, just make contact.
Right.
And you got Khalil Shakir, who, covered in beef tallow, needs about 3 inches of space, and he wiggles his way in. This play is just incredible. I every time I'm watching, I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Everything's going on here. And the beauty of this, and I'm talking about tomorrow, is watch the defensive reaction on the backside. I'm going to freeze it right here. Oops, I tried to freeze it right there. Okay. Action is going to the offense's left by virtue of the offensive line movement, okay?
Right.
All the defense is slanting down except for one cat on the end of the line of scrimmage because he's the emole. He's the end man on line, emole. So he's got responsibility to keep leverage. So what if Josh doesn't pitch the ball to Khalil here and he rolls out? All right, what's the next iteration of this play? Cook or Davis or Johnson stays lateral. Josh wheels around, heads out into space right here, and now he's running an option.
Right. And the question turns into the linebacker on the left side. Does he stay with the running back or does he take Josh at that point? Right.
That's right. And now, all right. So let's say the corner stays on the running back. Let's say the little guy right here fills and takes Josh. Let's see if he does. He doesn't. All right. That leads me to the next play. All right. And I named this play. This is sick and dirty. The next play. We all saw it. But I don't think everybody, I watched it about 10 times because I wanted to just see it over and over. It's just Josh on a keeper, right? But it's a design keeper. And this is what's so amazing about this play.
It's a little glitchy on our end, but so keep running it. Let it run again. There we go. Yeah, we're having a hard time seeing it. There he goes. Okay, go ahead now.
See if you can see it. All right, the important part of this play right here. We're running split zone again. Spencer Brown is pulling across the formation. Now, they add this wrinkle, and this is amazing. Watch the linebackers. So Josh fakes the handoff, and he does a quick pump. Watch what the linebackers do on this pump right here. They run. They are thinking screen. They're thinking bubble right now. You've already got the defensive end closing hard because he sees the tackle pull for split zone and the tight end release. And all we're saying is our dude is the dude, and we're going to run the ball at you. The confidence of this play, the ganas, the steel stones to run this play, I'm just dying. I can't believe you take your $250 million quarterback and you're just going to face him off against the defensive end with all kinds of slicker than snot, distractive motions, a pump fake, turn, face the guy, and beat him? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, he's the game has slowed down for Josh Allen quite a bit. Everything is in slow motion for him right now.
They run motion across the formation, right? To bring eyes. Everybody's eyes are going that way. Then they sell it with action. So everybody's flying that way. And to sell it even further, we're just going to throw this little pump fake in on top of it.
Right.
Which was totally a pump fake. He had no intention of throwing that ball. That was all window dressing.
Right.
And then just tucked it, beats this guy, breaks his cankle. He's still got a hip bruise from landing on the turf.
I wonder if he got mean mugged by Aaron Glenn.
Joe, I could have picked about 10 plays for this review. 6 is a lot. Thanks everybody for bearing with me. This show was for me because I had so much damn fun prepping for this. I was rewinding and go, what the hell are they doing here? Like, what? Okay, now I get it. And then I see something else on the same play. I'm like, wait, why did they add that? And I had to watch that. Now I get it. There's a lot of stuff going on. What like I said earlier, we saw a lot of things on this review and more that I couldn't even get to that are things that have been done to us. And it's just like, why don't we do that creative stuff? And now we did it. It was just fantastic.
So I guess the question that I would have for you is probably different than a normal question that I would have after or at the end of the end of a show like this. It's not about the next game; it's about the next 3 games. Like, what is the mindset, and where does the mindset for the Bills have to be for the next 3 games? I mean, Patrick Mahomes is now injured with a high ankle sprain. They're saying it's minor or mild. Who knows if he's going to play? My guess is you would guess too that he is going to play. Their schedule is kind of tough. They're still fighting for the 1 seed, but they're building confidence, right? They're building confidence. Neither of their opponents, 3 games, 2 opponents, are at the level of the 49ers, Rams, Lions. I mean, you're talking about the Jets, you're talking about the Patriots, both of which are teams that let's remember the Buffalo Bills got beat by the Mac Jones New England Patriots last year in Buffalo. So it's not exactly a skate, but what is the mindset of this team going into the next 3 games, into this week? Like, what are they doing? What are they preparing for? Where from your experience, where is their head at this week?
All right. So first of all, I'd hate to be the Jets and the Patriots defensive coordinators right now, just by virtue of this last game, because springing this out right now, this is more variety than we've seen from Bills offense in some time. So now you've already done the game plan. That was done a week ago to play Josh Allen in the offense. Now you're like, well, what the hell was that? Like, you either tell your guys don't even watch that film, or you've got to go log about another 12 to 15 hours per man to come up with how are we going to stop this ridiculousness. But the reason I think that they did it is they want to add layers of variety onto plays that have been working very well for us, split zone in particular. So as I see it, I don't think we're going to see much of this type of play early in the game against New England. We are going to line up, and that's why you saw a little bit of Reggie Gilliam. We are going to want to exert our will on them. We want to go back to more of our basic package up front, get ahead, and then add. Now, of course, I'm saying get ahead, right? But they have pride too.
Right.
Once we get ahead, we'll go back and start adding some of those layers, some of those things that they didn't even put in that they didn't even play. They didn't throw out there against the Lions. Defensively, obviously, there's going to be, let's get healthy, right? We're going to have to go back to some base package. The linebacker room, like you think, oh, well, let's rest our DBs and go to a 4-3. Well, what happened in the linebacker room in the last game? So I'm curious to see how they're going to handle it defensively. I haven't been following the Patriots enough to really believe that they are an electrifying passing attack at this point.
They're not. Drake May is showing flashes of Josh Allen, basically, is what's happening.
Right. So I think, you got to get that defensive front 6 and tell them that it wasn't good enough against the Lions, that they got 56 yards rushing, and that was about 54 yards too many, and they should be ashamed of themselves and come out with an attitude just to continue that rise of stopping the run. And once we do that, I think if we can start early, start fast, once we're up by 10 or 14 or 17, and it turns into a little bit of a shootout, I think we have a distinct advantage.
Yep, I agree. Richard Rush says, great plays, John. And then Victor Kreitner, who I think is new. I don't remember seeing Victor's name. So Victor, welcome to the program.
Hey, Victor.
Hey, John, it's cool watching you break game footage down. The pleasure is ours as football fans. So great job.
Joe, I know we're going long here, but I want to give everybody in the comment section and anybody who's listening to this podcast a little bit of homework. So far, it's been on me to choose the plays that get broken down, and maybe I have a limited scope. Everybody in the comments, everybody who listens on the podcast, if when you're watching the game and you see a play, I don't care if it's their play or our play, and you think, man, I'd like to get somebody's perspective on that. I don't care how mundane it is or how elaborate it is. Write it down. Write the quarter, who had the ball, the time on the clock. Send it to me on Twitter, whatever you want, and I'll see if I can break that play down for you.
That's I love that. So basically, just how do you want them to reach out to you? Do you want them to reach out to you via Twitter? So did you say that? I'm sorry. How do you want them to reach out to you?
just post it on Twitter. Tag me, tag Joe, tag the Overreaction, and say, "Hey, Fina, you jackass, how about you review offensive play, 1st and 10, third quarter, 7 minutes remaining," and I'll figure it out.
We could give them your cell phone number. Want me to give them your cell phone number and they can call you?
Yeah, sure.
Just kidding. Clearly. So good. John, great job. Just as always, blessed by the opportunity to hear you break down plays. I think as it pertains to the Bills community, you are the only former Buffalo Bill that's breaking down plays. So thank you so much for lending and giving us your knowledge. What were you going to say? Yeah.
Brian Baldinger played for the Buffalo Bills for a very short period
Brian
of time.
Baldinger played for the Bills?
Well, he was in training camp my rookie year, so he may not have ever been on the roster, but that's how I met Baldy. And yeah, he's a great guy. I mean, having been with him for about 4 weeks, I love that guy.
No stinking way. I did not. That's so Bill's trivia that nobody Bill's trivia that nobody probably knew.
And his brother was in the same camp that year, Gary Baldinger. He was a defensive tackle. So we had 2 dingers in one camp.
Super good. Well, great job, John. Thank you so much for lending us your knowledge that you have gained through a lifetime of football, even still to this day, coaching your son's team. So with that, I'm going to get us out of here, if that's all right with you, unless you've got any final comments as we head into Victory Tuesday and Victory Wednesday and Victory Thursday. Any final comments?
No, sir.
Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into the Off Tackle with John Fina show on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe. It is so good to have had you guys join us. Please stay tuned tomorrow, Tuesday, 8:00 live. Mike Canalata from Wham 13 and Buffalo Plus, the Buffalo Plus podcast, with also friends of the show, Dan Fates and Jenna Cottrell. Mike Catalano will be with us for On the Beat. Wednesday, the Humpty Hotline, and then Thursday, John, I'm trying to get people to watch Jerry's show, the Big O Show, because he has been on it with these 4 or 5 keys of the game every single week, and we got to get people paying attention. I know it's Thursday and people aren't really, you're thinking about Friday and the weekend, you're not really thinking about football. How do we get people to watch, tune into Jerry's show live? What do we got to do?
Well, I think we'll just keep asking everybody in the comments to join him and then let everybody know he's out there. I'll tell you, I went on to his full show last week. Admittedly, I don't get on enough of your shows and his shows and the Hump Day Hotline, but Jerry's great. I mean, it's great content, and he's very insightful. His keys to the game are spot on. He really digs into pertinent stats. He's not just spitting stats at you, and he has a little bit more depth of understanding of not just the player, but the style of their play and the depth of their play and what we need to do to exploit the opposition. It's a great show.
It is a great show. The Overreaction Sports Network, where we are the only network bringing you 2 former Buffalo Bills players to give you their insights, their knowledge, their wisdom, both in post and in pre. So tune into Jerry Ostrowski, just like you tune into John Fina. But for me, for John, for Jerry, for all of us here at Overreaction, we love you guys. We appreciate you. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.